Guys, so Romans chapter 2. We all good? Settled? That's what I get for giving you guys sugar. No more sugar for you guys.
Sorry.
This is what happens when we make cookies, huh?
I can make hot chocolate.
It's a sugar line.
You guys want? This is not what I was looking for.
What do you think?
That's better.
Should I make hot chocolate or is that going to snooze everybody?
Sure.
No, I'm not going to bite when we cut, but so hot chocolate, does she?
You want hot chocolate?
Thank you.
You want hot chocolate? That's a yes. Either that or you have a question. Yes, you can go to the bathroom. Okay. Hot chocolate?
Yes, please.
Hot chocolate? Hot chocolate,
More
Joe?
than 3 people want it.
Hot chocolate? Hot chocolate?
I'll drink everyone else.
Joel, do you want hot chocolate?
That'll be like 4 months on my.
So it's just her
And me?
and you.
Yeah.
You said more than 3 people. Who's the third?
I kind of soup.
No comment.
I thought it was 3 too.
I got the whole world
Well, you don't, baby, but okay.
in my hand.
All right, guys. If you need to say anything or do anything, get out of your system now.
We love you.
So you claim.
I'm kidding.
We don't. I love those stripes. That's about it.
How often do you read this one? This Bible.
Sadly, not very often. You need to read it more.
I haven't had one of these in
Oh,
a
do you have your
while.
own
Commentaries.
And it's not
Study
commentary.
Bible.
This
Or
is
study.
all just.
The study Bible.
Yeah, but the commentary and the notes on it are just cultural. There is nothing theological about it.
Oh wow.
So it doesn't teach you like this is what Jesus
Yeah.
meant. It's like
Have you read- have you
when
read
Jesus
that?
said that, the culture would have thought of this story from Egypt and this story from Mesopotamia and this king, and that's how that fits. And like, wow, it's pretty cool. That's why we got that Bible. It's our family Bible. So take it easy. Wait, is it? You have the right one?
Yeah.
Oh, he does.
Take it
Okay.
easy.
Yeah, you have the.
What is it, Ron?
It's cultural background. Bible. It's very special. It's really nice. All right, guys, are we good? Are we settled? Are we settled? Hey, I love the excitement. My only concern is that in a couple hours you guys are going to want to go to bed. I'm good to stay till 2 a.m. I'm off tomorrow. So.
I'm not.
I'm not. Who
Well,
wants
then
at
you-
8? I do.
Well, then y'all better focus. All right.
Or go day.
Slam and jammer.
Romans chapter 2.
God.
Therefore. Somebody tell me, what is that about?
What is
Therefore,
it there for?
Which means
Therefore is a
conclusion.
therefore.
Based on what you know. This is what it
Based on
is.
what specifically?
Bless you twice.
What was said before?
What was said before? What was the most recent thing to be said right before the therefore?
They do not only do them, but give approval to those who practice them.
Yep. Therefore, you. Hold on. Why is there a you? Do me a favor.
Bless you. My
Bless you,
goodness.
beautiful. Bless you 15,000 times. So, guys, quick. Take a look at Romans 1. I want you to just run through with your eyes from the end of Romans 1 backwards.
Right.
Show me the last time you see the word you. Like I said, from the end of Romans 1, work backwards. Just try to catch the word you. Because there's a lot of they,
None.
there's a lot of his.
None.
But where's you?
None.
In the whole chapter?
Yes.
You sure?
Yes.
Keep looking.
I looked.
Check again.
Wait, in the last
23.
In all of chapter 1, when is the last time the word you was used?
Right before when?
What?
I'm saying right before, like,
Bless you.
before what?
Bless
My
you.
goodness. Wow.
No, bless you 17,000 times. Sorry. She's allergic to beauty. That's why she sneezes next to me. So,
verse 13.
verse 13 was the last time you see the word you?
Yep.
Anybody agree with that? Or do you guys see you
I'm
anywhere
sorry,
else?
14.
I don't see it
15.
anywhere.
15,
14.
15, 15, 15, 15.
Maybe,
Which one? 14, 15, what?
15.
15. What does it say?
I don't see you in
In English?
I don't see it.
I see you in 17.
Really? What does it say in 17?
Wait, are we just looking for the word you?
Yeah.
Yeah,
So I'm eager
17.
to preach
Oh, no,
the
no.
gospel to you who
There's
also
19.
grow.
What verse
Verse
is that?
15.
Yeah, there's 21. There's 22.
Wait, where are you
There's
seeing the
23.
word you?
21
Oh,
you.
what translation
then
are you
who
reading?
teaches
Yes,
others.
me.
Huh?
What translation are you reading?
Oh no,
What
babe,
chapter are you
this
guys in?
first
When chapter
Oh,
one,
it's
guys?
for them, brethren.
We're in chapter 1.
Chapter
Oh,
1, babe.
That's right, no.
This is
I
for
never
them.
thought-
This is for you, my brethren.
Okay, that's
feel you,
why
Jen.
it makes
Anybody got anything past 15?
No, 15.
How 13 when 15 has you?
Do not say in
Yes.
yet. I want to see if I can.
Alright, see if you can find anything past verse 15.
Nope.
Yeah,
Should have
no,
said this
funny.
earlier while you guys were getting cookies.
Negative.
It is not there anywhere.
I didn't say it. Can't find it.
I'm over this.
Are we all satisfied?
Lesson.
Yes.
Yes.
Huh?
You over this lesson? Wow.
The you.
You have no
lesson.
patience. Well, you have no
Yeah.
patience.
Seven.
Go to preach the gospel to you also who are in Rome. Stop. Notice something. Here is the last time Paul has addressed the people that are listening. Then he goes on this more or less of a rant. He explains why he's not ashamed. He explains the righteousness. He talks about wrath. Telling about them. They. Those. The world. They are without excuse. You see it? Everything is about everyone but the people reading. Until verse 1 of chapter 2. Therefore you have no excuse. So what changed? How does what happened with them make you have no excuse?
I think what
'Cause
he's
the
saying is
standard
like
is-
even what you observe, you don't have an excuse.
Repeat the question.
The word you is used in verse 15. So I'm eager to preach the gospel to you also who are in Rome. From there he talks the whole rest of the chapter about they and the wrath of God and righteousness, and they have no excuse. They did this, they became depraved, they. And then suddenly in chapter 2 he switches back to therefore you have no excuse. So the question was, what changed in everything we heard that makes you have no excuse when everything else was about they and them and not you?
I think if like from what I see,
What is it?
he's
Don't be
like
scared.
he's saying this is what you see around you. You see these people are doing this, you see that they're pretty much falling around. So you don't have any excuse when it comes to your sins or your mistakes, you know, because
No better.
they know that they're doing wrong and yet they're doing evil upon evil upon evil, and they're actually like looking for more evil. And then he's like, you have no excuse. Like you can't escape your sin. Period.
That because they didn't know that they were in the wrong at the time.
Who didn't know? No, that's what we just finished talking about.
Yeah,
That
we just-
they knew.
we just said it.
Not only did they know that they were wrong, but they
to
still
the
kept doing
people
it.
Proved it.
reading.
Yeah, he's talking to the people.
To
who
the
read it.
people reading. Did
So you're
they
saying
know?
that the yous did not know that the theys have been doing wrong? Is that what you're saying?
No. Did the people who were reading
Right, the yous.
know that
Sorry.
they
Right,
themselves
right.
also realize it?
That the theys do now.
You did what they
Yes.
did. Right.
You and they are.
I get what you're saying.
I have a whole different thing about it.
Yes, you went
Okay,
there.
and then
different
Jen had her hand raised as well.
Yes, right. Go ahead,
Yes.
Jen.
Let's hear. We're gonna hear it and then we're gonna discuss it. Go ahead.
I may be totally wrong.
Hey, as
So
long as you're
sorry.
somewhat, just stick to being biblical,
Hey,
you'll be
Jen.
fine.
As long as you
It's
don't
the
confuse
Bible. There's a
yourself.
lot of wrong
This is
out
why
there.
it's
The
called
yous and the
dig.
theys and the
That's what I'm
thems and
saying.
the he's
We
and
run
the
into
Okay.
pebbles sometimes. Sorry.
So when he's
Pebbles,
saying
sorry.
they, isn't he referring to non-believers? And then when he says you, he's speaking to the believers?
No.
Okay then.
Why not? Why not, Justin? Why not, Justin?
I
I think
thought we
it
were
would be
gonna
the,
hear and then discuss.
Oh.
We are. I just disagree with the answer you just gave. But fair enough. We'll hear more and then we'll discuss. So, Jen, keep that in the back. Don't disagree. I think you're right. It's not the whole answer, but I think you're right. But we'll talk more in just a second.
To be the Gentiles is talking about the Gentiles don't obey because, or the Gentiles don't have an excuse either because their conscience. Verse shoot.
Well, what-
I honestly
He
think
mentioned
it's-
our conscience, whether we have the law or don't have the law, is going to be judged too.
is that in
So those are the days.
Are you talking about
So the
chapter 1 or
Jews-
chapter 2?
That's chapter 2.
Are we on chapter 2?
Yeah, but don't
No,
read
but
ahead.
you
We're talking
can't
about verse
bring
1.
in what is said after. You can't use chapter 2.
It's like the
to-
rules of the weird dig game. You can't skip.
You can't move forward.
It sounds so weird when we say it like that.
I don't agree with that mentality.
No, well,
Well, we're trying to dig based on what we know so far.
yeah, you
Yeah,
can't. You
it's like
can't
a-
use
it's like
it.
a
game.
You can't use
As-
post.
yeah,
Because
As a group
because it
Christian.
trains our
One
mind
thing, no,
to
one
see
thing.
what is there.
If you need to use
Read
restroom, go to the
chapter
back.
one.
Okay, go to the back to use
Huh?
restroom.
If you need
them from them. You know what I mean?
the they from the yous.
Yes, he's
Okay.
separated. He's
Okay.
making a clear line. Okay, so they were doing this and like now you. It is an expression, okay? So now you. That she said that they were believers at one time, or they were some kind of followers. I don't want to become. I hate when you do those faces. It makes me double think myself.
Well, yeah, that's the point of the faces. I'm curious where you guys are getting that from.
Well, anyways, he's just dividing what it is to be them and what it is to be now as followers, as you have no excuse.
Right, but my question was,
Yeah, what did,
why
Why did he transition?
why has what they have done and they have been through, why does that affect the Jews?
Because they
Think of them as two
supposed to be light.
separate peoples. Huh?
That's why they're supposed to be the ones helping them. You know?
I think there must have been some
You know,
current
Can we
issue going on
clarify who
that
the
he
days
was-
are?
The days are the Gentiles.
Okay,
Everything.
the theys
in
are not the
chapter one-
Gentiles.
yeah,
It's
Sort
Jews,
of.
right?
Sort of. It's
So,
complicated.
When,
I have
let's
no-
back
no,
up to verse
that's-
15
Can
on chapter
I-
He's just
1.
talking about sinful people. I mean, what?
Can I say something?
Please.
please, Justin.
So when I
Sure.
said no to
I'm
her,
lost.
it wasn't an absolute no. It wasn't.
Let's see how you follow that up. Go ahead.
For me,
Now I'm intrigued. Uh-huh.
when I reread chapter 1 and I'm listening to you, it kind of talks about both. You know, what I mean, it does talk about the believers and the non-believers. Near the end, it talked about like straight non-believers. God gave them up to their base minds or whatever. And I think that's who the theys are. The theys are a little bit of both. The people who are struggling to understand who God is and what they're supposed to do as Christians, and complete Gentiles who know nothing about God and who reject God. Near the end of chapter 1, it talked about how they had nothing. They didn't want nothing to do with God,
Yeah.
so God just let them go.
Yes. I
Yeah,
believe
yeah.
these people had a conviction at some point.
Which one is
Because
these people?
the
The
theys
theys
we
or the
gotta
yous?
start
I believe
clarifying.
the
No, just,
they-
that's the thing. The theys and the yous. Just think of them like that.
The
Theys and
they.
yous.
I don't want. I,
The theys.
The
So I
theys.
believe that they had a conviction at some point where they followed or they were aware of the law.
By the way, this is the official
Because-
Bible Dig game, so be prepared to back up what you say with scripture. Go ahead.
I'm saying,
Really?
yeah, because he said they are aware of what they're doing and they are straight up spitting in God's face and they know it and they know that what they're doing is evil and they're looking for more evil.
Coaster.
So thank you. So I
Careful
think
time.
that's okay.
Okay.
Thank you. So I think at some, I mean, I don't know if they're straight believers, but they must have been aware of the law. They must have been aware of some sort of moral standard that they straight up are like, we don't care, screw God, spit in his face. You know what I mean? And they're going all out.
rebellious.
Exactly, they're going all out, making a
So,
show out of it.
those of you that have been with us when we went through 18 through 21
Not me.
will recognize
Uh,
that at the time we
Yep.
discussed this idea that we are starting from knowing nothing about God. The theys, right, the them actually from verse 19, is starting with knowing nothing about God. So what they know about God is his invisible attributes through creation. And from that, they are without excuse. And from there, everything else they find out
Automatically.
about God is literally starting from zero.
Yeah.
So in that respect, I would agree with you saying Gentiles, non-believers, those who did not have the law, those who did not know God in a strict official sense. Paul is saying, even though they seem to have had nothing, the fact is, in creation, these things
So
of
don't
God
have
were shown.
excuse.
Right. And with those things being shown, they got to know God. And the second they start to know God, they start to reject Him. And the more they knew, the more they rejected. All the way until the end of the chapter, when they have rejected so much that they are giving out awards for who rejects God the most.
And that's why they have no
These are the
excuse.
non-believers. Right, but these are non-believers.
Yeah.
I heavily
Human
disagree
righteous-
with any thoughts of saying, and I'm curious where you guys are coming, where this is coming from, because I don't see it. But the idea of maybe they were believers, or maybe they had a creed, or maybe they were believers and have fallen back. In this portion of scripture, I don't see that. If you do see it, please share it with me, because I'm very curious now. Thank you. I know. Okay, I'm talking about the general thing.
Well, I think based on what I said, it makes more sense what you're saying because I was just picking up off the verses, but you went back to the beginning, and that makes a lot more sense. That he's pretty much saying like, whether you were introduced God or not, you have no excuse because God's attributes are clearly seen in the world and in creation and in life.
He has revealed himself.
Yeah, and like you said, the more they discover about him, the more they reject him. People are like that now. So, you know,
All
yeah, I
people are
think
like that.
I think it just kind of falls into evil people.
When
The world.
you look at verse 21,
Yeah, whoever's
though, it
Abiding
it
in it.
indicates that they knew him, which means that they had to have believed in him.
No,
Not at all.
no, not at all.
Atheists
Not in the least.
know
You can- you
that
can-
They
They-
believe he's
they-
real because it says that they acknowledge that it's him and they know that they're spitting in
Acknowledge
his face.
is
No.
what I
No,
They
no, no.
don't
Look at the words.
No, no,
Look at the
believe
words.
in him or trust in him.
This
It's
is
not
accidental
acknowledge,
recap,
it's-
but look at the words. Although they knew God, they did not honor him as God. They did not. They refused to acknowledge him as God.
They
So-
don't know.
They
It's-
see his
they-
effect.
they
They
see
know
the
he's
concept.
there, and they refuse to
I-
give him credit.
I wish it said
Right.
they knew of God, because that would be a lot more conducive.
Well, I
Who
wish
says-
the Bible
who
said
says
a lot
it
of
doesn't
things.
say that?
It doesn't.
But
For even though they knew
What's
God.
what's the
For even though they knew of God, that would mean, oh, well, I know of that person, but I never knew them.
no? That they knew God.
know what I
Look,
mean?
look at the words. Is whatever can be known about God is plain to them because God has shown it to them. For his invisible attributes, his eternal power, divine nature
Oh,
have been clearly perceived.
Yeah,
And we talked about the idea of clearly
So the
perceived being
concept
like it
of
was
God.
sent and received and
they
read.
knew.
So then Vinny's right.
No, they
And he's
didn't
not-
believe.
Oh.
There was no
They
belief.
knew, but they did not believe.
Just because you know of something doesn't mean you think it
Right.
exists, or
All they knew of God is clearly He exists.
That's what
and
he's
there's
saying.
an invisible
Now there's
They're
attribute
not
that.
exactly.
Now there's substances.
We're getting-
Eternal
we're
power
getting
and
with-
divine
Okay.
nature is
Based
He
on the context,
exists
they weren't actually.
and He's powerful.
Yeah, they
That is all
weren't
they
believers
knew
at
of
all.
God.
Right.
At the end of the chapter, they weren't believers at all. It was all the unrighteous people.
And from the beginning of the wrath of God section,
That's why I said.
It'd be
what I
like
said.
if we were
has
to.
been about that.
So it'd be like if we're. Oh yeah, I know.
So is he pretty much saying they don't have excuse? Period. So because we have Christ, we definitely don't
Exactly.
have an excuse at all.
Since the
So,
people who didn't
yeah.
believe have no excuse,
Yes,
you
we have like,
definitely
no
don't
excuse.
have.
We
Yes
have
and no.
We have no excuse.
Joel had something.
Yes and no. I'll tell you why
Yes
in
and
a
no. Okay.
second.
I,
Okay.
He
You're,
said
you're
it's
not
wrong.
off by much, but you'll see why it's up. Go ahead, Joel.
I'm
And
curious.
please, guys, contribute because I know some of you are shutting down by not being part of the
I already
discussion. Jump
No,
in.
I'm listening. This is a lot. Dang.
No, but like
I thought
I knew
chew
Romans.
with us. Chew with us.
Shoot.
yeah. No. I
You
was,
thought you knew Romans?
I
I wish
thought
I
I
knew
did.
Romans.
So-
This hot chocolate is on another level.
All right, Joel.
It was milk and abuelita. That was all it was.
You said
Is it like-
abuelita?
Abuelita.
Yeah, grandma. She threw grandma.
No,
like,
Go
oh,
ahead.
I know Trump.
Guys, we're distracted.
I know Trump. I voted for him, and he's about this, and this, and he doesn't like that, and he won't let us do that, and I voted for that. Is it kind of like that?
No.
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 You're not wrong, but that's way too much knowledge. Try this. I know there is a president because I have noticed that things don't just happen. However, I refuse to acknowledge that he has any claim or right over my life. I'm going to do my own thing.
Or have a part. Or,
And the more I stumble on a little piece somewhere that seems to suggest that this president wants something, I do the opposite.
That is extremely.
There's like really a big distance in someone's
extreme
heart.
rebellion.
It's a
Wow,
complete
yeah, it's
rejection.
like-
It's a complete
yeah.
rejection.
It is a, I smell anything that has to do with God, I'm going to do the opposite.
Yeah.
Strange. Sounds like a lot of
Wanna
people
go.
today, including us. sometimes.
that would explain.
Yeah, I won't
At
even name
times
the
I
relative,
feel-
but every time I mention like a Bible story, he's like, "Nope, don't want to hear it." I'm like, "Damn!"
Who?
Like, I
You
won't
just
say
said
it.
I won't
No, no,
name.
no,
Why would you
I-
say who?
No, I thought I didn't hear the first part.
Who?
I didn't mean who as in
When
like who was.
All the time I want to share something with a guy that's doing
In-
it.
Who are you talking about?
I want to hear it. I'm like, "Dang, that's so quick."
In certain
I'm not even
It-
sure. This
in
is
certain
relative.
fast.
He just said, and I quote, "I will not name this relative." Then he says, "Who?" Well,
I
like,
didn't
he
hear
just
the
said he's
first
not
part.
going to
Me
name.
neither.
I didn't hear
He
the
finishes
first
his whole,
part.
and then
I'm
you're like,
just
"Wait,
so-
who?" Like,
Super.
I should have enunciated. I mumble.
You
It-
just
I'm a
say.
mumble rapper.
You just say Theo.
Yeah.
Like, oh,
Okay, I'm really
which one?
curious
I
to
don't
hear
know.
though.
But that's
why
that
it's
would be
yes
saying
and
is
no.
who.
okay.
That's why I'm very curious.
So before I get to that, do we have any more to contribute on
No.
this
Wait,
before I
so-
give my thought? Go ahead.
Okay.
So in-
apparently.
Sorry.
Wait,
Dang,
what would-
growling over here.
Joel,
Go
what-
ahead, Joel. Ignore
Move
it.
on.
Yes, analytical is right.
going
That's
to
what I'm
ignore
doing.
her.
I'm more analytical than he is. Give him room. You have no excuse. You who judge.
Oh, stop
For you who
it.
judge do the same
Shut
thing.
up, Stripes.
Sorry, did I get you?
You judged it.
Okay.
Did I hit your teeth?
So verse
I'm
1,
so
okay.
sorry.
Okay.
I can feel from the move. I'm like, I'm
You
sorry.
reap what you sow.
Forgive me, please.
You
Okay.
want Tyson?
Yes,
Um,
Speak up, Mr. Joel.
So, in certain
Careful, it's really hot.
correlating with what you said,
Uh-huh.
in certain facets of
Uh-huh.
our
Yes.
life,
Right. Guys, let's focus, please.
Yeah.
We keep
So
distracting
what-
each other with every word. Hold
what-
on, let him
hold
speak.
on,
Let him
hold
speak. Let him speak.
Hold on.
Let him speak, and then you
Let
go.
Joe speak and then.
Because we're all forgetting what we're trying to say. Go ahead.
In certain facets of our lives, my life, because you said something about even we can have that level of rebellion,
Yes, but don't
but
sit
not
on
in
that yet.
totality, but in certain sectors that maybe God wants us to become more humble in.
Sometimes in totality. Let's not go there yet, because Romans is going to cover that. Let's not hit that yet because we need to stay on
In chapter
topic.
2, we just read.
It's end like 3 and 4 and 7
And 8 and
Hold-
9
Okay.
Hold that thought.
and
Bookmark.
14.
Yes, bookmark Romans. Romans
Okay.
chapter 1 through 20. Yeah.
Sorry.
14.
No,
I
20.
like major surgery.
It's
right
that
now.
bad. Doesn't need like 6 chapters buffer. Just let it go. So, Jen, Justin,
Well,
Val, Christian, do we have anything more to add on
I
this?
believe Vinny had
Vinny, you want to add
Chapter
something as well? I'm sorry. Go ahead.
In the regards to
Uh-huh.
what he was saying about President Trump, even though we don't know him personally, we know of the things that he has done for our country.
Yes, but that's
Yet there
substantially
are
more than they
people-
know of God.
There are people that don't like what Trump has done, which is
That's
think-
kind of.
which is making them want to leave the country altogether. Very much
Yes,
like the
except again,
Hmm.
you're giving. We know too much of Trump in your example.
Yeah.
We know too much of his existence and his person and his actions.
It's not similar.
What we're
to
talking about here in chapter 1 is they literally know 2 things:
his
his
invisible
power and
Attributes.
divineness.
Yeah.
That is, he exists and he's buff. Like
They don't know
that's
nothing
it.
else.
And he's
All
buff?
they know. He's buff. Yeah, he's powerful.
He's
Oh,
sovereign.
okay.
He's almighty.
So he
But that-
is
that
creator
shows a
and he is
lot, I
existent.
think.
It is, but it's
Huh.
not as much as in this example he's giving. He's going personal. That's what I'm saying. We can't. The example here, these Gentiles do not know anything of a personal God at all.
Yeah, because
they can't tell you he's
on
love.
TV every day.
They
So I
can't
mean,
see that. You get me?
Not even that. Even if you didn't see Trump, you still know so much information about him in general. Even before he became president and even after. With God himself, these unrighteous people knew nothing and they still don't know nothing.
And I'm going to help you out by connecting that analogy to a different group, but it doesn't apply to the group we're talking about right now.
Okay.
So remind me in about 10 minutes. Look at the clock. Remind me in 10 minutes. Just say Trump people.
Okay.
Okay. All right. Now, do we have any more to add on this so we can clarify, and then I'll explain. No, Trump is. Hey, there's demons. There's all kinds of things in the Bible, so it's all good. There's literally like the whole range from Jesus to Satan. So everybody's covered in the Bible. It's amazing. So,
Let's not bring politics.
do we have any more comments on this verse before I explain what I mean?
Nope.
No.
Okay. When I say yes and no,
Excuse me.
you were saying we, since we have Jesus, have no excuse. My argument is absolutely no. Here's why. This has nothing to do with Jesus yet. We're not there yet.
What?
Paul is building an
So
argument
it doesn't
step by
have to do
step.
with Jesus?
Correct.
Not yet, yeah.
I know it sounds like blasphemy. Work with me. it's not.
No, I
It's
get
not
you.
like dumping out Jesus.
I
Yeah.
don't automatically turn to a heretic, but I just, yeah, not that religious. But
So-
I get you.
So look at what's going on here. Here's what I'm trying to show you. In chapter 1, since therefore I'm eager to preach the gospel to you also who are in Rome, since then we have discussed people who have known virtually nothing about God. With some comments on righteous, and by the way, I will even argue something. Real quick, verse 17. As it is written, the righteous shall live by faith. What was that about? Do you remember?
Yeah, you're not
Who was
gonna
that spoken of in Genesis?
be- in Genesis?
Yep. What was the first reference to faith? Okay, let me help you out more.
Moses.
Who walked with God?
You know.
You know?
Enoch.
Oh, okay.
Enoch walked with God, and he was no more because God took him. He literally gets like a verse and a half in the Bible, and
Enoch?
that's it.
Who's
If I
Enoch?
remember
He's like-
correctly,
He's one of the descendants before Noah,
Yeah.
and he just walks with God and doesn't die. He is no more because God took him.
And,
Huh.
and
Just an awesome abrupt life.
So he's
It's
kind of
what?
like Elijah. How soon is Elijah gonna take
Sorry.
away?
Well,
Not the
sort
same.
of. With less than Elijah.
Without the
Elijah was a
chariots.
little bit more complicated.
so
Right.
are you saying that Enoch is Noah's
Great.
grandfather?
One of the grandfathers,
One
if I
of-
recall
yeah,
correctly.
great,
Yes,
yeah.
I believe so.
I think it was
I'm
his
trying to remember in
great-grandfather.
genealogy. He's up there somewhere in the
I think
list.
so.
But anyway, why am I showing you this? Did Enoch have the law?
Nope.
Did Enoch know
No.
God in the way that religion knew
No.
God? No, exactly. Since verse 15, all the people we have talked about do not know God in the sense that we talk about knowing God. They know of God in the sense of verse 19 and 20. What can be known about God is plain. God has shown it to them. His divine attributes and nature have been shown throughout creation. So, there are two ways to respond to that. You can walk by faith, Enoch, right? Or you can do what the vast majority of the world did, which is the whole remainder of this chapter. The theys, right? The unrighteous, those that turned away from God. The more they knew, the more they hated. Yes? You with me?
Yes.
You with me? Okay. Now, watch the transition. Therefore, you have no excuse, oh man. Is he talking about you as a believer? No. You know what he's talking about?
The
You
man.
as a Jew.
Yeah,
Because who has the law of God?
the Jews.
Who knows God?
Jews.
So that's why I said yes and no. You're absolutely right. We of all people have no excuse. If they have no excuse who knew so little. But it's because we, in this case the you, he hasn't gotten to Jesus.
So if,
He's building the argument from the ground floor. He's saying, hey, all those people, imagine the Jews saying, they're like, yeah, freaking Gentiles, man. It's true. Hey, remember when you were one of those? Yeah, man, I didn't know anything, but thank God, I'm saved now. I'm, getting circumcised tomorrow. It's going to be great. Got some, Benadryl. Like, yeah, it's bad, right?
Did you
But
say Ben?
just go with it. But the end result,
That's not paint related.
I thought drill. Anyway,
Good luck on.
so is that because
listen,
the
listen.
Jews came from that past?
Which past? No.
The past of chapter 1 and all its implications.
I think you
No,
don't you
the
grow
they-
into it.
you mean the
Don't
they
you,
versus the
you're born
you?
into it?
Yes. Does that mean
Right?
You're born into
because
it, yes.
is that why
Yeah.
it's saying that they have no excuse? Because you already know better. You've been there, done that.
Yes, and
Okay.
if you look at all of this past section, remember when we said the wrath of God is being revealed, and we talked about the idea of the theater,
They were given.
and you have sides being opened up? Imagine one of those sides opens up into an IMAX movie screen, and he shows you all those people. Heart to impurity, lust, greed, homosexuality, all of the stuff developing in front of you, right? And you're seeing it all the way until not only do they do it, but they give prizes for those who do it most. And then he turns off the screen and says, you really have no excuse. Why?
Right.
Because you have seen all this happen as an outsider while you had the knowledge of God.
And did nothing.
And in their culture, they knew of the law of God.
And
So
you
it's
did
like,
nothing
yeah,
with
they
it.
were like raised.
No, they
into
knew
it.
No.
much more than of the law of God. They knew God.
Well, yeah.
They knew
That
in a
too.
far deeper level
I'm
than
just
all
saying
these
morally,
Gentiles.
they're beyond aware.
Well, morally, so did the Gentiles. The moral argument started in creation here. So that's why there's no excuse. Because everybody has the moral compass, regardless.
That's true.
And so because of that, it's an automatic. Which is part of
So-
why the Gentiles have no excuse.
So this is where the analogy of Trump would come in. And this is the group that Ron was going to talk about, who would be,
You didn't remind me.
I got you.
That's a
I
reminder.
wanted Vinny to remind me, but
But
anyway,
yeah,
it's all good.
that's where the connection comes from, is the Jewish people would be us knowing Trump.
Yep.
Because the Jewish people knew God with the mass amount of information they accumulated throughout their whole generational lives.
And so do you see
That
how
was passed
someone,
down.
someone who only knows of a vague existence of a God and doesn't serve him and has no excuse, their position is much less bad, much less embarrassing than our position,
And-
knowing exactly who God is. And I don't mean us as the church, I mean us as the Jewish readers of this, who know God, have his commands, have his word, and then you have no excuse, oh man, every one of you who
Judges.
judges.
And also it would be,
So to personalize the initial thing that I said, then it'd be like us knowing Putin. Because we
No,
don't- that's
no,
not even
no,
the
no,
same
no, no,
country.
no, no.
No,
I'm a,
still too much
really,
knowing.
look,
Like I told you,
So-
it is us knowing there is a
Let me-
head of state
let me
somewhere.
break down your little.
The idea of a head of
But-
state
but-
exists.
Exactly.
Oh, okay,
So
okay,
it'd be
okay.
just the president itself. Nothing else. That's it. You know there's a president in this country.
Unfortunately.
Some-
But in that
Some-
country, we know the president's name. That's the difference.
Okay.
Is we know God's name as Jews. We know who he is. We know everything about
When you
him.
know a name, you
But
know
from
a
an
lot.
outside perspective, the president exists. Just the
They
president.
can identify
The
with
title.
that, they can
It's
have
a
who he is,
title.
what he is.
It's like me in Mexico. I don't know who the president is, and I don't care.
But you know there is one.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Okay.
But you know nothing
Multiple
about it.
election.
And she doesn't acknowledge it. Anyway, sorry.
So does that make sense?
Yes.
So
Title
that's
It's all
versus
politics.
So
actual name of a president?
the reason why waste all this time on this, right? We've been talking about this for the last 45 minutes. Why do we care so much? Here's why. You have no excuse, oh men. Okay, well it's not the oh men, right? Because we've been talking about men, right? But now this is you have no excuse, you Jew, because remember, again, we're a bunch of Jews watching this IMAX show, right? It just ended and we're like, man, those Gentiles, we're shaking our heads.
And that's how they would act.
We're upset. Yeah, absolutely. And so